my Yeti mic is fixed. Woohoo. But on today's video, I am going to be reading you my short film that I've been producing for the last 6 months, and we're shooting it this weekend, November 12th, 13th, and then on a Monday of November 14th. I apologize in advance if you hear my roommate in the living room. He is talking to his girlfriend about voting, and they're going through all the voting things for LA. I voted last night. Actually, I still have my voting registration in Massachusetts, but okay, I digress. In today's video, I'm going to be reading you the script. And yeah, I think I'm going to upload a video of me just reading it to you on this, and then I'll upload one with the actual screen so you can read along with me on the script. But yeah, I'm going to film it right now, and here we go. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to be looking over here. I apologize. It's just because my computer's there, and I need to read it. So here we go, okay? Let me move my mic. Hello, hello. Okay. And we are filming Flowers, written by Nicholas Ansel. That's me. This is my address. Oops. I'll probably blur that out. Okay. Okay, so we start off. This is how it goes. Scene 1, exterior soccer field, afternoon. A flower stands in the ground. Title card, flowers. The flower is picked up by Josh, 18, who's standing there in a soccer uniform. He looks at the flower. Where did it come from? He looks across the field. A boy and girl sit next to each other. The boy has a flower and hands it to the girl. She takes it, smiles, and then kisses him on the lips. You should give it to her, Rob says. Josh looks next to him to see Rob, 18, wearing the same uniform as Josh. Josh looks where Rob is looking. Across the field is Madeline, 18, sitting with her hair down. She's wilting. Title card, dirt. Scene 2, exterior soccer field. Hours later. A little violent. Josh and Rob sit in the grass stretching. So when are you going to make your move? Rob says. Josh shrugs. He tosses Rob a granola bar. Rob looks at it, then tosses it back. Josh looks down at the granola bar. It says peanut butter on it. You just have to give her flowers, Rob says. Kiss her, and then she's yours. That's what Julie and I did. Josh looks down to see his hand grab the dirt beneath him. Doesn't he have somewhere else to be? Rob says. Josh looks at Rob, and then where Rob is looking, under a tree, is Eddie, reading a gardening book, but with the light of his phone now illuminating it. Don't you have somewhere else to be? Rob yells. A finger comes up from behind Eddie's garden book. It's his middle finger, with nail polish on it. Rob flips him off and says, queer. Cut to exterior soccer field, dusk. Josh puts his soccer gear on his bike, says goodbye to Rob, and hops on his bike. Cut to scene 4, exterior Mara Vista Street, dusk. Eddie is walking down the street with a worn down backpack. Behind him comes Josh on a bike. Eddie watches as Josh rides his bike past him. Cut to scene 5, interior Josh's bedroom, morning. A hand scrunches up the bed sheets. This hand belongs to Josh, who's in a polo and khakis. He's lying on his bed. He picks up his phone and looks on Instagram to see a photo of Rob and Julia, affectionate and hugging. He puts the phone down. He sits up on the bed. Around his room are trophies and soccer paraphernalia. Also might be cod posters, anything masculine. This was a note for the set dressing and for our design, but we have cod posters, anything masculine. He looks at his desk, and a photo of Josh and Eddie wearing a daisy hat and the sunflower hat stands there on his desk. A hand goes through a drawer, and a hat is taken out. Josh holds the hat in his hand. He puts it on and smiles. Ring, 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 ring. Josh picks up his phone. Up to see a call from Eddie. Cut to exterior Marvista Street morning. Looking into the sun, Eddie stands on the sidewalk. Are you okay? Josh says. Eddie lowers his gaze from the sun. I told her. And Eddie puts his nail polish hand up to his cheek. Clearly emotional, Eddie begins to cry. Don't, Josh says. She's my mom, Josh, Eddie says. What if she's right and I do end up alone? Eddie looks at Josh. Josh looks at Eddie, only to disengage and lower his eyes. Eddie says, can you take me somewhere? Josh says, I have church, Eddie. Eddie nods, realizing. Oh, he says. Everything will be okay. Just trust me, Josh says. Josh comforts Eddie from a distance. Cut to exterior soccer field afternoon. Under the same tree sits Eddie reading the same book. Rob. I heard his mom was crying at church. Josh looks next to him. Stretching is Rob. I think he came out to his mom. Rob looks at Josh, only for Josh to not look back. I still don't get how you guys were friends. Josh says we weren't. We just went to the same camp. It was a gardening camp. Sounds dumb, Rob says. Josh looks at Rob, failing to get water out of his water bottle. Do you think he'll... Rob slits his throat. Is it bad that I kind of want him to? Rob says. Cut to exterior Marvista Street, dusk. Eddie is walking down the sidewalk, only for Josh to ride his bike past him. Josh stops his bike. He turns around. Also, side note, as you notice, there's some gaps in the pages. I can talk about this later, but you see how there's different revisions? When you're going through an edit on writing, here, actually, I can show you. Whoops, that's me. When you're going through writing, you have all these different revision colors. You have purple, you have yellow, you have, I think I have blue. Sorry if this is bright. You have green. You basically have all these revision colors because they're dated. So when you do a change, you change the color. The reason there's a gap on here, and maybe I'll just read on here. This is the scene we just ended on. Oh my god, sorry, side note. It's raining outside LA. Sorry, little break. Ignore all the clothes, but it's raining. Can you see this? I'll be right back. It never rains in LA, which is wild. So it's so cool that it's raining right now. Sorry. Okay, and we're back. Let me just put my headphones in. So it's raining, it's downpouring. I don't know if you could hear that, but it never rains here, and it's been raining, and I love it. Okay, but back to the story. Oh, but why there's a gap here? When you're in production, you will lock the pages for production, for like set design and everything. So that stays the same, but when you add on to a scene that's new, it makes it a new page for A, but then I'll keep, the same page. But I digress. I hope you're still with me. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. But moving on, so Eddie's walking down the sidewalk, only for Josh to ride his bike past him. Josh stops his bike. He turns around. I'm gonna go back to... Hi. That's me. Sorry, one sec. There it is. Only for Josh to ride his bike past him. Josh stops his bike. He turns around. Josh stops and he says, "Do you want to sleep over?" Cut to scene 9. Dear Josh's bedroom. A duffel bag. Oh my god, so raining. I love this. A duffel bag lands on the bed. Josh says, "Mom says you can stay over as long as you want." Eddie sits on the bed. "Your room's different than it used to be," Eddie says. Eddie goes up to the poster on the wall. He sees the soccer and shooter posters. Everyone's into this stuff now. "You mean Rob?" Eddie says. Eddie makes his way to the desk. Eddie picks up the hat. "I remember this. He used to wear this all the time." Eddie picks up the hat, only for Josh to take the hat and put it into a drawer. "Mom doesn't want us in the same bed," Josh says. He hands Eddie a sleeping bag. Scene 10. Exterior school afternoon after school. Eddie walks past Josh. Josh watches as Eddie walks away. "Excited for Saturday," Julia says off screen. Next to Josh is Julia, 18. "What's Saturday?" Julia says, "Madeline's grad party. I invited you on Instagram. Walk with me." Julia and Josh walk. "It's where you're going to give her flowers on her first kiss, right?" Josh says, "Why do you care so much?" Julia says, "Because I'm her best friend, and as her best friend, I can't let her go to college never kissing anyone." Josh says, "Why not?" Julia says, "Because then no one will want to kiss her, and she'll be alone." Josh grips his backpack. Julia says, "Just show up, dress nice, and give her roses. Those are her favorite, and then just kiss her." "Thanks, bye." Josh stops, only for Julia to walk away and meet up with Madeline. Julia strokes Madeline's hair behind her back. "Hold it in," she says to Madeline. Cut to interior Josh's bedroom at night. Eddie opens the drawer and places the hat back on the desk. Cut to title card, water. Do you hear the rain? Isn't that nice? Scene. We'll talk about water. It's rain. Scene 12, interior bathroom, night continuous. Water comes from the water spout and waters Josh's head. Josh pushes his hands through his hair, clearing his face of hair. Cut to scene 13, interior Josh's bedroom, night. Josh lays in his bed and Eddie lays on the ground. It's dark, only the moonlight from the window is casting light. Josh says, "You there?" Eddie says, "Yeah." Josh says, "Do you think you need to kiss someone to fall in love?" Eddie says, "I don't know. Why?" Josh says, "I'm supposed to kiss Madeline on Saturday." Eddie doesn't say anything. "Do you think love even exists?" Josh says. Eddie says, "Yeah, I do." Josh says, "What do you think it is?" Eddie says, "I think it's... You remember at camp how we'd sometimes mix and match flowers to help them grow better, and some would thrive and some would not?" Josh says, "Yeah, like roses and sunflowers would kill each other, but daisies and sunflowers wouldn't." Eddie says, "I kind of think of love like that. We're all different, like flowers, and some go better together than others. We just have to find our match." Josh says, "And how do we find our match?" Eddie says, "You show your differences." Josh says, "What if you don't have differences?" Eddie says, "Everyone has differences. We just like to pretend we don't." Josh looks at his hat on the desk. "Aren't you afraid of being too different and ending up alone?" Eddie says, "I'd rather be alone than with people who don't like me for me." Josh says, "Aren't you afraid of missing out on high school things like parties?" Eddie says, "Yeah." Josh says, "If I invited you to a party, would you go?" Eddie says, "Maybe, if you wore your hat." Scene 13A, interior Josh's bedroom, day. Josh is wearing his clothes for the party. He's looking at himself in the mirror. He looks over to his hat with daisies on it. Cut to scene 13B, exterior Madeline's house, night. Josh is in front of the house. In silhouette, he alone. He stands with his hat in his hand. Scene 14 and scene 15 are omitted, which means that they no longer exist. Instead, we jump to 15A, which is another version of scene 15, which was omitted. Josh stands at the front door with his hat on. Rob says, "Look who finally made it." Josh smiles. We turn around, and Rob is standing there in the hallway. "What's with the weird hat?" Rob says. We turn back around to Josh, who now has Eddie behind him. Eddie says, "What's with the weird comb-over?" Josh looks at Eddie. "You made it." Rob puts his arm around Eddie and grabs him. Rob says, "Why is he here?" Eddie takes a sniff. "What's with the Babio?" Rob smells his armpits and releases Josh. Rob says, "She's down the hall waiting for you." Rob points down the hall, flips off Eddie, and then leaves Josh and Eddie. Down the hall is Madeline and Julia. "Shit, I forgot flowers," Josh says. Eddie walks away. Cut to interior living room night. I say might not be needed. This scene might be cut, but I like it. Some flowers are in a vase. A couple's making out on the couch behind it. A hand takes the flowers. Cut back to the same scene we were before. Interior Madeline's home. Continuous. Eddie stands with sunflowers. He says, "Here." Eddie offers Josh the flowers. Josh looks at Eddie with the flowers. Eddie says, "Just take them." Josh takes the flowers, pulls the flowers up to his nose, and smiles. "Over here," Julia says. Josh looks down the hallway and walks away, leaving Eddie alone by the front door. He looks around, only to realize he's now alone. Scene 16 is omitted. Scene 17, interior bathroom night, continuous. Josh hands Madeline the sunflowers. She looks at them, takes them, and then looks at Josh. She smiles, and so does Josh. She puts the flowers down in the sink. That distracts Madeline, so she takes it off of Josh and places it on the counter. Madeline smiles and begins to lean in for a kiss. Josh looks at her. Josh looks at her and then at the hat. "I don't." Madeline stops, opens her eyes, and then throws up in the sink all over the sunflowers. "Oh my God," Josh says. Madeline touches her hair. "Ew, this is why I don't like my hair down." She grabs a hairband scrunchie from a drawer and puts it up her hair, up. "Are you okay?" Josh says. "Yeah, I'm great," Madeline says. "I just throw up when I'm relieved. I didn't want to kiss you either." Josh says, "You didn't." Madeline shakes her head. "But your first kiss," Madeline says. "I've already had my first kiss." Josh says, "With who?" Madeline cleans off her mouth. Josh says, "I only ever see with Julia." Josh realizes. Madeline says, "You can't say anything." Josh says, "But Rob." Madeline says, "He's on to us. That's why we're." She motions to both of them. "Are they still outside?" She goes to the door. Cut to exterior bathroom hallway at the same time. Rob stands with his arm around Julia. Cut back to Madeline begins to pace. "What do we do?" Josh puts on his hat. Realizing, he says, "We pretend." Madeline doesn't get it. "I'm going to lean in now." Josh winks. "Oh, okay." Josh begins to make smooches. Madeline does the same. "Wow, that was great." So they're going like... Madeline looks at the door. She gives a thumbs up, but then puts a finger to stop Josh. She takes out lipstick and puts it on Josh's lips. "Thank you," she whispers. Cut to exterior bathroom hallway continues. The door opens, Josh leaves, and Julia goes inside, leaving Rob by himself watching Josh leave. Cut to scene 21, exterior Madeline's house night. Eddie sits on the curb in front of the house. His nail polish hands are on his cheeks. The front door opens, and out comes Josh with his hat on his head. He sits down next to Eddie. "New color. I like it," Josh says. "Thanks," Eddie says. "How was it?" Josh is about to say something when Eddie takes off Josh's hat. Instead of putting it on the ground, he takes it around. He turns it around and places it back on Josh. Eddie looks down at Josh's lips. "You have a little." Eddie licks his finger and wipes off the lipstick off of Josh. His finger lingers. Josh begins to smile. Eddie begins to smile. Beer is dumped onto Eddie, drenching him. Behind Eddie is Rob with an empty beer. He takes Josh's hat and puts it on himself as he walks out to the street. Rob says, "Look at me, I'm Josh, and I wear this stupid hat, and I'm with my new best friend Eddie, who's in love with me, and I'm in love with him." Josh says, "Give it back." Rob says, I expected Madeline to lie and be pathetic, but you, man, I thought more of you. Josh says, stop it. Rob says, or what? You're gonna kiss me? Do it. Kiss me, I dare you. Rob closes his eyes and puckers his lips, only for brown paste to hit his cheek. Rob opens his eyes, frozen. He touches the paste with his finger and looks at it, and then looks over to where it came from. With her hair in a ponytail stands Madeline in the driveway, holding a spatula in one hand and a jar of peanut butter in the other. Barely being able to speak, Rob says, is that? Madeline says, peanut butter. Rob's face goes white as he begins to feel his body. Madeline says, looking for this. Madeline holds up the EpiPen. Drop the hat and you won't die. Rob begins to whimper like a child. He takes off the hat and drops it in the street. He grabs the EpiPen from Madeline and runs away. Madeline looks at Josh and motions him to the street. Josh looks down the street and sees Eddie walking away. Josh runs over to him. Where are you going? Josh says. Eddie stops home. Josh says, I live 2 miles away. Eddie says, my home. Josh says, why? Eddie says, I'm drenched in beer, and you still don't see it. Just leave me alone. Eddie walks away. Josh stands in the road alone. His hat is ruined with peanut butter and water. Cut to scene 22, exterior soccer field, afternoon. Where a flower once stood, stands no flowers but cleats. Josh stands in a soccer uniform. His hand blocks the sun. From above him, up across the field is Madeline with her hair down welting. Josh looks to the other side. Eddie sits under the tree reading the same book. Nothing has changed. Thanks for the card, Rob says off screen. Holding an EpiPen, Rob stands next to Josh. You can stab me with it if you want, Rob says. Josh looks at the EpiPen but doesn't take it. Rob says, you probably heard that Julia broke up with me. Guess I got too drunk or something. Her loss, am I right? Josh looks across the field. Sitting next to Madeline is Julia. Madeline puts her hair up in a ponytail and sits up tall and sturdy. She smiles at Josh. Josh smiles. Are you listening? Rob says off screen. Josh says, fuck off, Rob. Realizing to himself. Rob says, what? Josh says, I'm done pretending like I like you. So fuck off, Rob. Rob stands stunned. Leave me alone, Josh says. Rob scoffs. Whatever. Rob leaves Josh alone in the field. Josh takes a second before closing his eyes and looking up to the sun. New title card. Sun. Scene 23, exterior soccer field, afternoon. This is Flower World. Sun blurs our vision as we look down in front of us. Daisies cover Josh's body. As he looks at them in amazement, he looks across the field. Madeline sits covered in roses and dandelions, and so does Julia. Josh looks at Eddie. He's covered in sunflowers. Josh smiles. Josh takes a flower from his body and holds it in his hand. Cut to scene 24, exterior tree, same time, normal world. Eddie is sitting reading his book. Josh is in front of him. Hi, Josh says. Eddie doesn't respond. Can I join you? Josh says. Eddie doesn't respond. So Josh sits next to Eddie. I like it over here, Josh says. Eddie puts down his book and looks at Josh. What is he doing? He decides to let him in, though. He goes through his bag and pulls out a hat. Eddie says, I know it's not the same, but I thought you could have mine. Eddie hands Josh a sunflower hat. Josh looks at the hat, puts it on, and smiles. He looks down at the daisies in his hands. That's now in front of him. He looks over at Eddie and hands it to him. Eddie looks down at the daisies, takes it, looks back at Josh. He breaks his gaze, puts the daisies down, and goes back to reading. We pull away as Josh and Eddie sit next to each other, Eddie's head eventually falling onto Josh's shoulder. The end. The end. And that is my short film, Flowers. Let me know which character you love best. What was your favorite moment? And yeah, thanks so much for joining me. And if you could be really kind and sensitive, this is my baby. I know it's not perfect. and I'm okay with that. But it is a piece from my heart, so please be kind. And if you don't like it, if you don't have nothing nice to say, just don't leave a comment or anything. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and if no one's told you, I love you, and I hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. So with that, I say good night, or good day, or good afternoon,